We've all seen the comments, scrolling beneath photos, pausing mid-episode, rewinding scenes that feel different. For months now, fans of 90 Day Fiancé have been asking the same quiet question in louder and louder ways. What is happening to Darcey Silva? At first, it was subtle. A slightly different angle. A face that seemed unfamiliar, even to longtime viewers who have watched her transformation for years. But recently, that unease has shifted into something deeper. Something heavier. What was once casual curiosity has turned into genuine concern. And this isn't about judgment. It's not about mockery. It's not even about beauty standards anymore. According to growing fan speculation and online discussion, this feels like something else entirely. Because what viewers believe they're witnessing may not be just another chapter in Darcey's ongoing cosmetic journey. Some fans now worry it could be the visible result of years of physical strain, emotional pressure, and choices that may have finally reached a tipping point. We want to be very clear here. There are no confirmed medical diagnoses. There are no official statements. What we're examining today is public concern, patterns fans have noticed, and why the conversation has shifted so dramatically. Still, the silence surrounding Darcey has only intensified the speculation. Reality television has conditioned us to expect constant updates, interviews, social media reassurance, behind-the-scenes clarity. But in this case, there's a noticeable pause, a gap. And in the world of celebrity culture, silence rarely calms anxiety. It amplifies it. What makes this situation even more unsettling is Darcey's history. This isn't a sudden transformation. It's a long, documented journey that viewers have followed across seasons, spin-offs, and social platforms. Which is exactly why so many fans feel uneasy now. They believe they recognize a shift, not just physically, but emotionally. Some viewers say her expressions seem strained. Others say her energy feels different. Many point to moments where her confidence appears fragile rather than empowered. And that's where the concern truly begins. Because Darcey Silva has always been open about her desire for reinvention. For years, she's spoken about self-love, confidence, and transformation as empowerment. But critics and supporters alike are now wondering whether that pursuit may have crossed from self-expression into something more complicated. This story isn't about one procedure. It's not about one photo. It's about a pattern, and why so many fans believe that pattern deserves a closer look. Today, we're not here to diagnose. We're not here to accuse. We're here to explain the journey, explore why concern is growing, and examine how a woman who has lived in the spotlight for decades may now be facing the most complicated chapter of all. To understand why fans are worried now, we have to go back, long before the headlines, before the transformations, before the scrutiny intensified. We have to rewind to the version of Darcey Silva the audience first met, and why that memory still matters. To truly understand Darcey Silva's journey, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to the version of Darcey that millions first fell in love with, a woman full of charm, ambition, and a warmth that radiated through every smile. Before the spotlight, before the cameras, before the scrutiny, she was a young woman exploring life and love, just like anyone else. During her early appearances on 90 Day Fiancé, viewers saw someone relatable. Her personality was larger than life, yes, but there was authenticity in every laugh and every tear. Her expressions, her natural features, her energy, they all reflected a woman confident in her own skin. And yet, even then, subtle comparisons were being made. Fans noticed her appearance, her choices, her evolving style. Comments on social media ranged from admiration to critique. And while many saw these as harmless, over time, the commentary became a persistent backdrop, a mirror reflecting back societal pressures and expectations. For Darcey, growing up in a world that often measures a woman's value in perfection, those pressures were amplified. Reality TV doesn't just capture life, it magnifies it. Every expression, every reaction, every choice is watched, discussed, and dissected. And Darcey's story would be no exception. Over the seasons, viewers began to notice changes. Small at first, a subtle shift in the shape of her features, a tweak here or there. Fans speculated, some admired the transformation, others voiced concern. But what's important to understand is that these changes did not happen overnight. They were gradual, cumulative, each one adding to a larger narrative that fans were only beginning to piece together. And as the changes continued, so too did the scrutiny. Fans began tracking patterns, comparing past episodes to new appearances, documenting the evolution of her cosmetic journey. It became more than gossip, it became a timeline. Some fans describe this as watching a story unfold in real time, a story of ambition, transformation, and the very human desire to control how the world sees you. But the timeline also raised questions. Questions about motivation, about intention, and about the potential toll, physically, emotionally, and socially, that constant transformation can take on a person in the public eye. This is where growing concern started to emerge. Not from a single incident, not from one image, but from a series of patterns, behaviors, and changes that viewers couldn't ignore. They began asking, is this simply self-expression, or has the pursuit of perfection become something more complicated? And as those questions grew louder, the silence from official channels became louder too. Social media posts became sporadic. Interviews were rare. Updates from Darcey herself were infrequent. And in the world of reality television, silence often speaks louder than words. It's this combination, a long, documented journey, increasing changes over time, growing public concern, and silence from the star herself, that sets the stage for the story we are about to explore in detail. Because to understand the full picture of Darcey Silva's surgery journey, we must look not only at what has changed, but at why these changes may have taken place, and how fans perceive them today. What drives someone to constantly seek change? For Darcey Silva, the journey is as much psychological as it is physical. Fans watching over the years have noted patterns, a desire for perfection, a meticulous attention to detail, and a relentless pursuit of the ideal image. Experts in psychology often talk about something called the mirror feedback loop. In simple terms, it's the idea that people begin to see themselves not as they truly are, but as they are reflected through filters, comparisons, and public opinion. Every critique, every comment, every compliment can subtly reshape perception. And in the world of reality television, where every facial expression is analyzed, that effect can be magnified exponentially. Fans have observed moments that suggest Darcey herself may be caught in such a loop. Social media highlights show an almost constant attention to appearance, a need to refine, adjust, and perfect. Every change, whether minor or dramatic, becomes part of a story that viewers can trace. And it's not just about vanity. It's about identity. Many long-term fans comment that over the years, Darcey's self-image seems to be inseparable from her public image. The person she presents on screen is intertwined with who she believes she must be to be accepted, admired, or even loved. This is why fans' growing concern feels so compelling. They are not merely noticing cosmetic changes, they are witnessing the evolution of a public persona under immense pressure, and they are asking themselves, how much of this is choice, and how much is influence, from the cameras, the audience, or even from her own expectations. It's also important to remember the social context. In today's culture, filters, photo editing, and cosmetic procedures create a standard that feels unattainable. Viewers see Darcey navigating that world live, in high definition. Every adjustment becomes a visual signal, one that sparks conversation, debate, and, increasingly, concern. For many fans, concern deepened when comparing older episodes with more recent appearances. The differences are subtle, but noticeable. The smile that once seemed effortless now sometimes carries attention. The expressions in interviews, once relaxed, now occasionally hint at fatigue or unease. These small changes are enough to make viewers pause and ask questions. And so, what began as curiosity about appearance has evolved into a broader concern about well-being. It's a natural progression. Fans who have followed Darcey for years feel invested in her story. They know the timeline. They know the milestones. And now, they are witnessing a phase that feels different, more serious, more complex, and deserving of closer attention. This isn't speculation for shock value. It's the observation of a community watching patterns unfold over time, patterns that raise questions not about judgment, but about care, concern, and the human experience of transformation under pressure. As we move forward in this story, we will examine not just what changes have occurred, but how these changes fit into a larger journey, one that combines ambition, identity, public scrutiny, and the unique pressures of living life on camera. Because understanding Darcey Silva's surgery journey means understanding the full context of her choices, the environment she navigates, and the growing concerns of the fans who have been following her every step. To understand the scope of Darcey Silva's journey, we need to look at the timeline of her cosmetic changes. Fans and longtime viewers have been piecing together a story that spans years, carefully tracking appearances across seasons, events, and social media posts. The patterns aren't random, they tell a story of gradual transformation, one that becomes more pronounced with each passing year. Early on, the changes were subtle, a slight enhancement here, a minor adjustment there. Nothing that drew immediate alarm. Many fans even celebrated these early steps as a natural evolution, a woman embracing her confidence and style. But over time, the changes became more noticeable. Certain features began to shift in ways that fans could identify. frame by frame, episode by episode. Comments under social media posts began to reflect that awareness, admiration mingled with concern. Some fans cheered the results, while others questioned whether the pursuit of perfection was becoming overwhelming. It wasn't just the physical changes that drew attention. It was the consistency and frequency. Observers noticed that after each new procedure, Darcey seemed to undergo another shortly after. A rhythm began to emerge, one that suggested a deeper drive, a desire to refine, adjust, and perfect that never fully rested. Fans also noticed patterns in her public reactions. Photos and interviews show moments of joy, moments of pride, but also glimpses of strain and unease. Longtime followers began connecting these emotional shifts with the cosmetic timeline, asking themselves how much pressure she was under, both from the public and from herself. And then there were the milestones that sparked the most discussion. Every season premiere, every reunion episode, every new social media post became a marker in the journey. Fans compared old episodes to new ones, noting changes in facial structure, expressions, and overall appearance. These visual cues became a shared conversation, a collective timeline of concern and fascination. Importantly, this timeline isn't just about what was visible on screen. It's about the story fans have created to make sense of those changes. The observations, the speculation, the discussions online, all of it has created a narrative that feels urgent, compelling, and impossible to ignore. As we trace this timeline, it becomes clear why growing concern among fans isn't just idle chatter. They are witnessing a decades-long journey, a transformation that combines choice, identity, ambition, and the relentless gaze of the public. And with each new season, each new photo, each new episode, the story only deepens. This is the stage we arrive at today, a journey followed, documented, and discussed by thousands of eyes around the world. A journey that fans are trying to understand, interpret, and, for some, even protect. Because as the timeline continues, the question that looms larger than ever is not just what has changed, but what does it mean for the person behind the camera, and the fans who have been following every step. As the timeline of Darcey Silva's journey unfolded, fans began to notice more than just changes in appearance. They started to notice patterns in behavior, in interviews, in social media interactions. And with those patterns came speculation, not wild accusations, but careful observations, questions raised by a community that has been following her for years. Online forums and fan groups began piecing together what they called the narrative of concern. Posts highlighted recurring themes, a relentless drive to refine, moments of self-doubt captured on camera, subtle shifts in confidence, and reactions that seemed to indicate a heightened awareness of public perception. Some fans even began referencing insider whispers, statements from individuals who claimed to have knowledge of the entertainment industry, of cosmetic procedures, or of behind-the-scenes moments on reality sets. Again, we must emphasize, these are unverified claims, shared by viewers and online commentators, but they contribute to a broader understanding of why concern is growing. According to these discussions, Darcey's journey isn't just about cosmetic choices. It's about a pattern of influence and pressure. The environment of reality television, where every reaction is magnified and every appearance is analyzed, adds an unseen weight. Fans point out that repeated exposure to scrutiny can impact decisions, not just for celebrities, but for anyone living in the spotlight. And the conversations often turn to psychology. Viewers reference the idea of body image perception, the mirror feedback loop, and the subtle ways social validation or critique can shape choices over time. Many suggest that the pursuit of perfection can become a cycle, a loop where the more one strives to refine, the more one notices what still feels incomplete or unfinished. Social media amplifies that effect. Every photo, every story, every video is met with instant feedback. Likes, comments, shares, all quantifiable responses that reinforce or challenge self-perception. Fans note that Darcey, like many reality stars, navigates this constant feedback while simultaneously managing her public persona. It's a balancing act that is exhausting for anyone, and increasingly, it appears to have played a role in the journey we are exploring today. Another aspect that emerges from fan observations is the idea of comparisons over time. Early seasons are revisited, side-by-side images are studied, and viewers notice subtle changes that may have gone unnoticed in real time. These comparisons create context, showing not just isolated changes, but a progression, a story that seems to unfold gradually, yet consistently, over the years. And that progression is why concern has shifted from curiosity to caution. Fans aren't just commenting on aesthetics anymore. They are questioning the long-term impact of living under public scrutiny, the emotional weight of repeated cosmetic interventions, and the broader implications of a reality star navigating identity, ambition, and self-expression in the public eye. In other words, the concern is holistic. It's not just about what is visible on camera. It's about understanding the human being behind the transformation, and why viewers feel compelled to pay attention. This sets the stage for the next phase of our story, the visible moments that sparked the most discussion, the episodes, events, and appearances that made fans sit up, compare notes, and grow increasingly concerned. These are the milestones in the journey, not just cosmetic, but emotional and social as well. As we move forward, it's important to look at the milestones in Darcey Silva's cosmetic journey, the moments that drew the most attention from fans and sparked the strongest discussions online. The earliest noticeable changes were subtle, minor enhancements that some fans celebrated as confidence-boosting updates. But over the seasons, viewers began to detect a rhythm, adjustments that were more frequent, more pronounced, and seemingly cumulative. Certain episodes marked turning points. Fans pointed out moments where expressions seemed different, smiles slightly tighter, or features subtly refined. These changes were not drastic in isolation, but when viewed as part of the full timeline, a pattern emerged. And it was that pattern that led to growing concern. Social media became the repository of these observations. Side-by-side comparisons were posted, threads analyzed past and present appearances, and fans started creating visual timelines. Comments ranged from supportive to worried, some praised the transformation, while others questioned the effects of continuous cosmetic procedures on overall well-being. Experts in body image and cosmetic psychology often emphasize that repeated procedures can affect more than just appearance. Fans online have referenced concepts like perception drift, the mirror feedback loop, and the psychological impact of constant scrutiny. It's not simply about how someone looks, it's about how they perceive themselves, and how that perception interacts with the constant gaze of an audience. It's also important to note the role of media and reality television. Each season brings higher visibility, more camera angles, and greater public attention. Fans note that Darcey's appearances are consistently documented, and that documentation allows for comparison in a way that few public figures experience. Every episode becomes a reference point, a checkpoint along her evolving journey. As milestones accumulated, so did commentary. Moments that might have seemed minor at first began to feel significant when viewed together. Patterns of enhancement, refinement, and adjustment were noticed across years, giving fans a sense of a continuous, ongoing process rather than isolated events. It's this continuity that has fueled the growing concerns. Fans are not just reacting to a single procedure or appearance. They are observing a trajectory, a series of steps, choices, and decisions that form a larger narrative. And in that narrative, what emerges is not judgment, but caution and curiosity. This context helps explain why so many fans are now invested in understanding Darcey Silva's journey. It is not merely a story of cosmetic change. It is a story about identity, ambition, and the pressures of living life under constant observation. And as we explore the most recent chapters of this journey, it becomes clear why concern has intensified. These are moments where the audience begins to wonder not only about appearance, but about well-being, resilience, and the human impact of years in the public eye. As we reach the most recent chapters of Darcey Silva's journey, fan observations have become more focused and, in many ways, more urgent. The latest episodes, social media posts, and public appearances reveal changes that are impossible to ignore. Viewers note subtle shifts in expression, posture, and facial features. While some fans continue to admire the transformation, many others have expressed growing concern, not about beauty, but about well-being. Online discussions have intensified. Fan groups are analyzing each appearance, comparing it to previous seasons and even earlier social media content. Patterns have emerged, and with those patterns comes a collective question: is the journey still about choice, or has it become something else entirely? Psychologists and body image experts often describe a phenomenon where public scrutiny and repeated self-refinement can become self-reinforcing. Each adjustment brings temporary satisfaction, followed by renewed awareness of perceived imperfections. In Darcey's case, fans suggest that this cycle may be visible on screen, a subtle but noticeable pattern of refinement and concern. Social media reactions reflect this tension. Comments such as, "She looks different, but I hope she's okay," and "I just want her to be happy and healthy," appear alongside more neutral observations. The community is no longer merely admiring the transformation, they are invested in the story behind it. This is further amplified by the silence surrounding updates. Unlike other reality stars who provide regular explanations or social media engagement, Darcey's recent communication has been limited. That lack of context fuels speculation, but it also fuels genuine concern. Fans want to understand, to make sense of what they are witnessing, and to ensure that the person behind the public image is doing well. Another point of focus is the timeline of recent procedures. Fans have observed changes that seem consistent with previous enhancements, and some speculate about ongoing maintenance or updates. Once again, it is crucial to emphasize, these are observations and interpretations by viewers, not confirmed facts. The aim is to provide context for why concern is growing, not to make any claims about Darcey's health. What emerges from all of this is a sense of narrative tension. There is a story unfolding, one that combines past choices, current appearances, and public reaction. Fans are deeply engaged, analyzing every angle, every frame, and every social media post. And in that engagement, a pattern of concern has crystallized. Ultimately, this chapter of Darcey Silva's journey reflects a complex reality, one where ambition, self-expression, public attention, and personal choice intersect. Fans are witnessing a story that goes beyond cosmetic change. It is a story about identity, perception, and the human experience of transformation under scrutiny. As we prepare to look ahead to the possible next chapters, it's important to understand that this story is far from simple. It's not just about appearance. It's about a journey, one that continues to evolve, and one that has inspired a level of public attention and concern rarely seen in reality television. As we reach the conclusion of Darcey Silva's ongoing journey, it's clear that the story is far more than cosmetic change. It is a narrative that blends ambition, identity, public scrutiny, and the pressures of living life on camera. Fans watching over the years have become deeply invested. They've seen the subtle shifts, the patterns, the milestones. They've followed the timeline, analyzed appearances, and discussed theories. And what emerges is a story that is complex, compelling, and, for many, deeply human. The growing concern among fans is not about judgment or criticism. It is about care and curiosity. Viewers want to understand how a woman they have watched for years navigates transformation, attention, and expectation. They want to ensure that behind every image, every episode, and every social media post, the person at the center of the story is okay. It's also important to acknowledge the emotional impact of living under scrutiny. For anyone in the public eye, every expression, every gesture, every change is observed, commented on, and shared. That environment can be empowering, but it can also be exhausting. Fans recognize that the pursuit of perfection, whether in appearance, in presentation, or in performance, is not without consequence. Throughout this journey, Darcey Silva has shown resilience, determination, and an enduring desire to define herself on her own terms. And yet, as the timeline has unfolded, fans have grown increasingly aware of the human cost behind transformation. This story, as followers have pieced it together, is a reminder that reality television is about more than entertainment. It is about people navigating identity, ambition, and public perception, often under the most intense scrutiny imaginable. And for Darcey, that journey continues. As we watch, reflect, and discuss, the questions remain: how will this next chapter unfold? What choices will be made, and how will they impact the story we have all been following? And most importantly, how will Darcey Silva continue to navigate a world that watches, comments, and cares in equal measure? For fans, the journey is far from over. Observers remain engaged, analyzing each new appearance, celebrating milestones, and voicing concern where it is due. This ongoing dialogue reflects the deep connection viewers feel with the story, a story that is still unfolding, and one that continues to captivate audiences around the world. In the end, Darcey Silva's surgery journey is not just a timeline of cosmetic change. It is a narrative about identity, resilience, and the complexities of life in the public eye. And for the fans who have followed her every step, it is a story that demands attention, reflection, and, above all, empathy. This is the journey as it stands today, explained, observed, and understood through the eyes of the audience that has followed it from the very beginning. And while the next chapter remains unwritten, one thing is certain: fans will continue to watch, to wonder, and to care.